Hello, I'd like to first start off this video by saying thank you very much for your support, and this video is a follow-up to the video we uploaded on Friday, which is to do random images. Now, just to sort of give you an idea, there have been so many comments and questions, and I'm trying to work my way through them, but they were just coming in faster than I can actually respond to them. So this will answer hopefully some of those questions, and to try and help you, the time codes of where to find each of those parts will be in the description down below, alongside links to videos that might be of some use. Let's start the video. So the way we've created the randomizer in the previous video is we've used one animation sequence with a variety of textures in that sequence. However, there is an alternative way of creating a randomizer. And the way of doing the alternative way would be to use multiple planes, each with a different answer assigned to it, and then tweaking the patch editor to allow for that sequence to play through. So I'm going to just delete my animation sequence files for now. I'm now going to import my options, so I'm importing my 5 answers here, and this will bring them in as separate image files. I'm going to use this answer material I created earlier, and I'm just going to change it from being answer to being called answer 1, and assign the material for that to be number 1 of my answers. So to save myself a big headache, I'm going to be duplicating this plane and then just modifying the name and the material assigned to it each time. So I'm just going to call this answer 1. I'm also going to delete my visible patch for the answer in the patch editor that we did before, because we won't be needing that. And now with my answer plane selected, I'm going to duplicate it. And because I've called it answer 1, my second one will be called answer 2 by default, which is super useful. I'm then going to create another new material. And in fact, I'm actually not going to do it that way. I'm going to select my material for answer 1. I'm going to duplicate that, because again, that does our naming for us and keeps the shader type correct. And all I do is I change the shader type to be the shader texture to be the second image. And I make sure that the answer 2 plane has the answer 2 material assigned. And I'm going to do this for the number of answers I want to have in my effect. Now you can sort of see the problem with this. If you was doing this and you wanted hundreds of options, this is a bit of a convoluted way of doing it. Hence why we looked at the animation sequence before, which would be more useful for larger randomized effects. But this, it gives us a bit more control, and it's just another way of creating a randomizer. So I'm just going to again make sure each of my materials has separate images attached to it, and then check that each of these has the appropriately named material assigned to it. There we go. So I should now have my 5 answers and my 1 question. So where we've got down here, we've got this offset less than loop animation random round. What we're going to need to do is we're going to need to, after this round here, add an equals exactly. And because we've got 5 answers, we've got 5 as our random end value. So when this first one equals 0, which will be our answer 1, we want the visibility for that answer 1 patch to be linked to this equals exactly. So every time that the answer is 0, answer 1 will be shown. And we're going to need to do this for each of our answers. So I'm just going to select my round and equals exactly and link them to my random, and I'm just going to do this for the 5 different options that we have in our randomizer. There we go. So I should have 5 of these, and I just change the equals exactly to be 1 less than the answer that I have, because 0 is a value in Spark. So 0 is essentially your 1, 1 is your 2, 2 is your 3, so on and so on. So every time that this equals 1, I want answer 2 to be visible. And I'm going to do this for each of my answers and just link them up to the corresponding effect down here. There we go. And let's just start to check that up. Now, one thing you can see already happening is we're getting this clipping going on because my question box is actually smaller than my answer box. So to fix that, I'm just going to select my question box and slightly scale it up so it masks the layer underneath. There we go. So now if I was to activate my screen touch, it should randomize through those frames, and after 6 seconds choose a frame and stay on it, and when I screen tap it will reset and I can do it all over again. And as you can see in this video, there are other ways that we can control all this. So we could always replace our screen tap with our camera screen record. We could always also use our face tracker and use an interaction, so every time our mouth opens we can set this all off. So in fact we'll do that just to demonstrate. So let me just move these patches because they've moved themselves on top of each other, which is a bit annoying. There we go. So move these over here, just tidy it up a little bit. So every time my mouth opens, I want this to activate the switch here and reset. So let's just see if this works. So waiting for him to open his mouth again. And if we try it on ourselves, just so we can actually check this quicker. So as you see, it's sort of doing what I've asked it to do. And again, if I want to change the time, I can always just change the time down here in my less than run time, so that actually change how long this runs for. So that's one way of controlling it. You can see it's a little bit glitchy, so there's some more work there that might be required to iron that out a bit. But again, that's how we can control things using different control interactions to generate the same effect. So that has been an extra thing you can do with the randomizer, and another way of going about creating a randomizer effect. Some people also ask, how would you put a frame on this? I would personally put a frame on each image and just save that frame on the image, or because it's just easier. But if you really wanted to do it a sort of a different way, you could also create another plane on top that's always visible that has the frame on, with a transparency in the middle, so PNG format, for example. And just turn the on the material, just make sure that the def test and def buffer are turned off, so it doesn't cause any planes intercepting each other, like problems. So let's just switch it back to the person. There we go. So that's another way we can create a randomizer. And we're also going to look at some other cool things we can do with the randomizer now. So a number of you have been asking, how do I get my randomizer to play when I start my screen recording? Now, the way we do this is we're just going to use what we set up in the last tutorial, and we're going to delete this screen tap, and we're going to add in our camera. So simply drag your camera from your scene into your patch editor, This will give you 4 options, so you can either choose to activate something on the front, whether it's activated on the back, whether it's activated when a photo is captured, or when something is activated when the video is recording. We're going to go with the video recording option. So we're going to drag from that handle there, and we're going to add a pulse. And now every time that our pulse is turned on, we want it to activate our switch and activate our offset value. So I'm going to link from my pulse to my reset on my offset and to my switch flip. And what this will do is now every time we hold down the record button, it will reset our runtime to start this counter working again. Also switch our 2 planes and then give us our result after the set amount of time that we've given it down here and here. So if we adjust this time here, it would appear a lot sooner or later. And bear in mind, if you're using Instagram, there's a set amount of time for how long your recording is, so you can kind of work out how long your maximum should be here. And that is how you simply set up your randomizer using a screen record option. Now, what if you wanted your randomizer to give you a fixed result? Now, there are multiple ways of doing this. If we're working on this logic here that we set in this patch editor here, one way we could do it is we could simply add a fake plane that has a fixed answer on. So I could select my answer, duplicate it, rename this plane to be fake answer, create a new material for this fake answer to be on, and assign its texture to be the answer I always want it to show. So in this case I always want it to choose chocolate. And then I can add from my runtime offset value down here, I can click and drag and add a greater than patch, and then select my fake answer, add the visibility to my patch editor, hook the 2 together, and then when I reset my patch, you'll notice it's still showing up. I just need to make sure that my greater than is higher than my less than value up here. So in this case it's greater than 6. So now you should see that when we restart, nothing appears. Once it passes 6 seconds, you'll notice it's bleeding over the edges. So to fix that, we can simply select our question plane and scale that a little bit bigger so it hides it, basically creating a mask. And now if I was to run my randomizer, like so, because it's linked to this reset here, it resets all the values, so it resets the timer, and once it goes over 6, our fake answer is over the top of our loop animation here. So the real result is actually still there. So if I go and just simply pause this for a second and move this out of the way, move the fake answer out of the way, so you can see. You see all we're doing is essentially hiding it with another plane. One of the things you may, if you're doing it this way, you might want to do is you want to make sure to turn off your def tests, because this could cause some clipping to occur. This isn't necessarily the best way of doing this. If you really wanted to create a fake randomizer, the way I'd probably recommend doing it would be to create an animation sequence with duplicate frames for your randomizer elements to be in, hook that up to a standard animation patch, have that play through your animation, and once it reaches the end or last frame, which would be always be the desired result you want, it would then just simply show you that image. So I would actually not use a randomizer element of any of this to do that. I would just simply, like I said, duplicate my frames up until a point where for the duration I want it to be in, and then give the fake answer using an animation patch, just because that gives you more control. And honestly, there's no point having randomizer elements in there if the answer is going to be fixed anyway. Another thing you could add to your randomizer could be the use of emitters and particles. So to do that, I'm simply going to select my face tracker object and add an emitter, which is under effects, or which is named a particle system. There we go. Link this to my face tracker, and now I can adjust the values here. So I'm just going to simply pause my work here so I can rotate it easier. And I want this to be 180 degrees on the z-axis because I want this to be upside down. Again, you could adjust this using these values here under emitter and particle values here. There we go. I'm going to assign the material, and the material I'm going to assign is going to be the same as my answer. I'm going to adjust my birth rate a little bit so it's not quite as fast. Change its type to be line I am, just so it gives a bit more of a waning effect. I'm going to move this to be below my answer plane and behind, and I'm just going to put this onto a new layer. Like so. And what I want to have happen is I want this particle system to basically start playing or appear once our answer has been given. So again, there are multiple ways of doing this. We could adjust the birth rate and have the birth rate change over time. So have it go from 0 to 10. So it starts at 0 doing nothing and then starts playing at 10 afterwards. But what I'm going to do for speed reasons is I'm just going to use this switch down here. And I'm going to link my visibility to that switch. But I don't want it to just start straight away. So I know for a fact that my effect takes 6 seconds before the answer is given. So if I add a delay, and I have that delay to be, let's say, 6.5. So now when I start my effect, it'll do the randomizer. And after 6.5 seconds, we should have the emitter playing and showing the same image as what our result is there. Now at the moment it doesn't turn off, it just stays there. Until the particles have dissipated, so you see the particles are visible for as long as they are still emitting. Hence why the birth rate might be a better way of doing it. And the reason we're getting this sort of delay before it disappears is because we've got a delay here. So just bear that in mind with your effect. But this is just a sort of very quick overview of how you could do a particle system. I'm not going to go into huge details on this. I might cover this again in a future video. But I just sort of wanted to add this in here as a little amendment or appendix essentially. So you can always use randomizers combined with other effects. So in this case I've used a split face effect that I've created in a previous tutorial, which you can see in the description down below. So now every time that the mouth opens, it basically will randomly choose a face or element to show. And all I did was simply took the runtime, offset, less than, loop, random and round values from our randomizer effect and linked them to our pulse value down here. So every time that the mouth opens, it resets our animation, and then it'll, after 4 seconds, give us a new result. So if I preview this on myself, and I just reset the camera, there we go. So every time I open my mouth, after 4 seconds it'll give me a new answer. If I want that to be a lot faster, I could say every time it's less than 0.1, let's say. As you see, I can, so every time I open my mouth or open my face, basically it can show me a different result. So a bit more work and a bit more thinking outside the box. You can create randomizers that go beyond the static thing above your head and implement it into other effects to create something truly unique and creatively bespoke. So I've been Stephen Fisher. thank you for watching. I hope this little addition has been useful, and I'm still trying to work my way through your questions. There's a lot of them and lots of positive response from my last few videos, which is great. If you want to support this channel, feel free to subscribe, like and share. And we also have a Patreon where the resources from these tutorials will also be available. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.